Happy Valentine's Day, the time of love. Or, well, for most people, welcome to blog number 2, the theme of which is going to be love. It's been a busy week, mostly writing, going to meetings, not going to meetings, and lots of other exciting things. So I did say I was going to talk more about some of the stories that I've been writing, and this week it has been mostly a story which, if you've been reading my blog, is called Encounters with Trolls of the Northern Line. Now that is a rough title at the moment. It basically says what it is in on the tin. It's about a series of mythical creatures which we happen to call trolls because we have no better name for them, that live in various dark places across, in this case, London. And the whole issue of the Northern Line is actually a huge red herring, though there is a certain element to do with London transport. And that's actually caused me a huge headache because it meant I've had to spend much the last couple of weeks researching to make sure that this idea hasn't been done before. And in fact, elements of it have in various other places, but not in anything like the same way. This is one of the problems with writing shorter stories, because you are much more focused on ideas, and hopefully new ideas, or at least interesting ideas. And so you spend half of your time looking over your shoulder, making sure that someone hasn't done what you're doing before, or at least in a suitably different way. And luckily the themes that I'm playing with are very different. So there are 4 characters, and I am wrestling with the most difficult decision when writing a monologue, which is it a character telling the story, or is it the storyteller as a third person telling these people's adventures? And I still can't quite decide. I may have my cake and eat it to some degree, and so that's my big wrestling technical problem. The rest of it is going very nicely. The material and the basic ideas are flowing, and the outline of it is there. So that at the moment is one of the front runners for the Storyteller 2011 tour and show, which hopefully will all be details of which will be coming out very, very soon. Apart from trolls, of which I will continue to tell you more about later, but in snippets, little snippets, I've been working on, in fact I'd say working on, I've written it. I was down in the bar chatting to my sound engineer, of which you will hear more of later, Peter, and I was talking to him about the complete lack of sleep I've been getting recently, and we had this sort of skit back and forth, and I went away, and that night I wrote a piece called Sleep Inc., which is pretty much done. It's a very short monologue. It's a character-driven monologue. It's about someone going to a specialist about his sleep problems, and the specialist is giving his advice, and it gets weirder as it goes along, and it's rather fun. It's not perfect, it's not polished, but it is there, it is an entity, it is done, and I probably won't do much more than tinker with it before I get to the rehearsal stage, which will be coming in a few months' time. I'm still in the stage of just writing material. So that's a short piece which I think is probably guaranteed to go into the show, but there's still a long way to go, and I want to create as much different material as I can to give options, and so that certain nights we may have more and different material. So that's what I've been doing in the writing front this week. I've also been editing some medieval mystery plays for a project next year, for 2012. That's entirely separate, and that's just what I do when I'm sort of switching off for the day, is to wrestle with some slightly difficult, dense medieval texts from the time before spelling began. And I had intended, what I intended to do, and which is why the whole love thing with Valentine's Day came together, I had intended to do a little snippet of Trolls, as I shorten the title of that story. I had intended to do a little section of that. I wanted to do that at the end. because it was a lovely little section about an alternative to romantic love and all the other things that, you know, people who are all alone on Valentine's Day, who really can't stand all the lovey people around them, they could take solace in alternative forms of love, and love in its all-encompassing forms. But it wasn't really good enough, so I'm not, and you'll get that in the future. Also this week, I have been recording, or doing a test recording. Earlier this is where I do all my writing. This is my little office full of books. And earlier today it was filled with a little improv sound booth, and I was sitting there testing the acoustics and how well it worked, and it worked fantastically well. And I'm really looking forward to next week, when we will do proper recording session with all the rest of the cast of Teaching Gods and Other Stories, Simon and Kat, hopefully. Next weekend we will all get together and we will do some recording. And more on that next week. That's something to look forward to. And it went so well, in fact, that I actually did one of the shorter monologues and recorded it then and there, and hopefully that'll be edited together very soon and maybe go in a sort of premature little snippet release thing maybe in the future. Don't know. I also went to my home from home, as it were, in London, the Barons Court Theatre, to see a friend of mine, Jen Shakespeare, in a production of Othello, and I would recommend you go and see it, but there's no point because it's sold out, so, you know, unless you like queuing and beating people to death to get tickets, then don't bother. But it was a good show, very enjoyable, and Jen was lovely, very good actress. And which brings me on to a sad story, as we're on the subject of Barons Court in a week's time, on the 22nd of February through to the 6th of March at the Barons Court Theatre. There is a production of The Seagull, and in normal circumstances I would be saying go and see it because I'm in it, but I'm not. I was in it, and I did rehearse with the cast for a few weeks, and then sadly I had to drop out. So if ever there was an incentive for you to go and see it, it's because I'm no longer in it. So anyone who is in London, it was shaping up really nicely. It's a lovely cast. I obviously don't know one of them. I haven't met my replacement, but they were producing some really interesting stuff with the material, and doing a really nice rehearsal process, and it was just shaping up very nicely. And it was a real wrench to have to leave because of circumstances completely out of my control. So if you are available to go down to the Barons Court Theatre for 2 weeks, from the 22nd of February to the 6th of March, all this will go up on my blog in a day's time. If you're looking for the details, the theatre company is Frank Theatre. Do go along because it will be worth it. And also, while I'm in the plugging mood, in 2 weeks' time, for those in Sudbury, I've done London, now I must do my local people. There is a production by Sudbury Dramatic Society of Separate Tables, which I've been sitting in on in some of my free evenings, and that is also a very enjoyable and interesting play by Thomas Rattingham, and most enjoyable to go and watch. So highly recommended there. Tickets for that are selling fast. Again, details will be on my blog. So next time, in a week's time, I should have completed a read-through. I'll be having a read-through of one of my new plays, Amleth. It's a 2-part epic based on British myths and stories, and one in particular. And that's going to be down at the Key Theatre in the Bar, the lovely Key Theatre Bar in Sudbury. And read-through is on the 19th of February at 1 p.m. For those who are free, just come along, join us, and we'll be reading through an epic tale of murder and assassination and war. It's a happy play where everybody lives to the end. Yes. So that's what I'm doing on Saturday, and if you're available, do come join us. And also, I should have updates as to the first proper recording sessions for the audio releases of some of my old monologues. So all this is going on, along with all sorts of other stuff. mostly involving alcohol. So I look forward to seeing you again in a week's time, or more importantly, vice versa. Goodbye.